So this is the 2025 Kawasaki ZX-4RR Ninja. It's a 400cc inline-4 machine, only 76 horsepower. So is that enough to have fun on the road? Let's find out. Right, so we're going to throw our leg over the machine. 800mm seat height, so quite approachable. And I am 5'8" with a 30-inch inseam. And I can totally flat-foot it. And for a sports bike, it's quite a comfortable seating position. Not too bad. You don't feel like your bum's stuck up in the air. Start up the dash, 4.3-inch full colour TFT. Quite small, but it's functional. We'll talk about the riding modes, etc. as we're going. Right, so let's talk about the engine first and foremost. So we've got a 399cc inline-4 engine pumping out 76 horses. That is quite a lot for a 400, but we'll get into that. And I don't know if you can see that dash there, but it redlines at 16,000 RPM, which is absolutely mental. It makes peak power at 14,500 RPM, so almost at the red line. And it makes 39 Newton meters of torque up at 13,000 RPM. So, you know, power and torque all quite high up on this bike. Let's talk about suspension now. We've got Showa SFFBP, so that's the separate function fork, big piston, 37mm forks up front, and those are adjustable for preload only. And as they are the separate function fork, you've got the preload adjuster only on the right fork leg. At the rear we've got I think they call it a back-linked shock, which is basically a horizontal shock, which just gives a bit of extra room. But it's a gas-charged shock with a piggyback reservoir, and that is actually fully adjustable. Now, while I was reading the tech specs, it mentioned, and it made kind of a point of saying they both front and rear has top-out springs, and that's not something I've come across before. So I had a little Google, and it's basically, it seems like either an extra spring or the spring rate is different at the top of the stroke, and that's to avoid it topping out. So once it uncompresses, you know, it's the opposite of bottoming out. And I wonder if that's because it's something specific to this bike. Oh, I'm in second gear. I keep doing that, actually. Yeah, so, yeah, top-out springs front and rear. Braking-wise now, we've got a Kawasaki branded monoblocks. They're 4-piston monoblock radial-mounted calipers, so should feel pretty good out on the road. We will try those in a bit. And at the rear, we've got the usual single-piston caliper. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Front has got a, in terms of disc diameter, 290mm discs up front. Right, here we go. It certainly doesn't seem like it makes a load of power low down, because, well, it doesn't. So you're going to need to rev it out, which is something I'm not used to doing. I'm used to riding bikes that have a lot more torque low down. So that is something I'm going to have to adjust in my riding for this bike. That does sound great. Yeah, that sounds good. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about some chassis components now. We've got a steel trellis frame. The bike weighs in wet 189 kilos, so heavier than I thought it might be, but still light enough for it to feel pretty agile and nimble, which it certainly does. We've got a 15-litre fuel tank as well, and that's good for over 200 miles, so really impressed with the fuel economy. But I would say that's probably something to do with the fact that I'm not revving, I'm short shifting a lot, because that's just a habit I have. As I said, most bikes I ride, the power's a lot lower. So I'm going to have to really try to remember, just keep those revs, hold those revs. We've got a load of electronics from Kawasaki. We've got the quick shifter up and down. We've got riding modes. So riding modes, we've got rain, road, sport, and a customizable riding mode called Rider. It has got other electronics like traction control. That's all built into the riding modes. What I mean by that is sport will have a less aggressive intervention than, say, rain. I think there's a low power mode as well, but to be honest with you, a bike that's only making 76 horsepower, I'm not going to fiddle with that today. Slip and assist clutch as well. The clutch action is actually nice and light. We've got full LED lighting. There's a smartphone app. You can connect it up to your phone. Don't know what that does. Right, let's God! That does sound absolutely amazing. We've got the ram air induction as well. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And it sounds like you're going 1,000,000 miles an hour, but you're not. Listen to that. I do feel a bit bad because, you know, usually I don't rev bikes that high. Those brakes are fantastic. Right, what else has the bike got? We can talk about price actually right now. It comes in around about £8,700, so not cheap. Certainly for a 400cc bike, you might expecting it to be a rather cheap motorcycle, but this is not. So, you know, about 300-400 quid less expensive than my Hornet 1000, but I do think this is a bit of a unique proposition, and that adds a little bit to the cost, and some of the components are very, very high quality. In terms of handling, let's just talk about the handling. It's got some Dunlop tyres on it, which I don't think... Oh, that is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Yeah, the handling is very agile, but I'll be honest, I think the tyres, maybe it's the time of year, you know, it's not the warmest and the roads aren't the best, but the tyres aren't filling me with loads of confidence. I think they are Dunlop Sport Max, so I dare say, and they are Japanese OEM rubber, which is always less than ideal. And I actually think Dunlop makes some really good tyres, but you have to buy them from Europe because the Japanese cake, that's what they call it, the compound. The Japanese cake is just, it's cheap. It's built, or they are made to a budget. So I still highly recommend Dunlop tyres, like the Sport Smart Mark IV are very good. But yeah, it certainly does feel agile because it's, you know, it's a light-ish bike. Although it does actually look, to me, it looks bigger than a 400. Right, just jump on the dual carriageway, see what that's like. Surprisingly, now I've ridden this bike to work, I've commuted on it, the seating position is really comfortable. Certainly when you're doing motorway stuff, you're not like all the way down there like I am on the R9. It's a very comfortable position. The seat is lovely and plush. It's cradling my bottom just nice. So I rode the bike to work and did a bit of other tomfoolery, and I was on the bike for about an hour and a half, and it was actually really good in terms of the comfort levels, no real issues. So I would say this is quite a usable, diverse machine. You could use this for touring, weekend blasts, commuting, all that sort of stuff, and it would certainly be up to the task. And it does give the rider quite a comfortable experience. Now obviously I am the height I am, I'm 5'8", 30-inch inseam, so perhaps if you're like 6.5 foot you might think otherwise, but yeah, at my height, which I can only kind of give you the opinion from my height, I can't imagine what it's like being over 6 foot. That would probably give me a nosebleed because of the altitude, you see. Comfort gets 5 stars from me. I think it's very, very comfortable. Right, we'll get off the motorway and then we'll talk more about the performance of things like the brakes and the engine. We'll have a little bit of fun, because that is what the aim of the game is. Right, we'll come off here. Now, let's talk about that engine, that lovely 399cc inline 4, which is a rarity these days to have an inline 4 engine in such a small capacity motorcycle. And I guess that's inspired by their, you know, 1989 or whatever it was, I think it was 1989 when it came out, ZX-4RR. Certainly a very iconic bike. And that bike was out for about, I think they made that for about 15 years, but this reincarnation or this reimagining of that is certainly very unique in the marketplace today. You've got lots of similar sized bikes, but they're usually single cylinders or parallel twins. But yeah, the engine is ridiculously smooth. I think that's something that Kawasaki do really well. It's give the rider a really smooth power delivery. You have to get it singing to get the most out of it, that is for sure. You certainly can short shift, but what am I in? I'm in, let's go down to 4th gear, 40 miles an hour. I'll drop down to 30 actually, so that we're not speeding, and I'll open the taps. You know, not much is happening. I'll even go down to third, look, third at 30, and then we'll open the taps. I mean, that's a bit better. Let's try it in second, why not? Let's have some fun. We'll go down to 20 miles an hour. And you can just feel it starting to get going towards the middle of the rev range. But where it makes that power, as you can see on the spec sheet, it's all at the top end, and that's where you get a little bit of a pull. But it's not the kind of bike that's going to rip your arms off and give you that kind of experience that you get like on a much more powerful motorcycle, like even some of the MT-07, that's got a nice shove. This seems to keep that right at the top. So if you're wanting a bike that's got low down punch, this isn't going to be the sort of bike for you. But you can ride that RPM all the way to the red line, and that will give you a big old smile when you hear that engine screaming. And it does, for me, it does sound a bit like, oh, I need to change gear, I shouldn't be revving it that hard. But that's exactly what the engine is designed to do. And it is fun, it's just very different to what I'm used to. So it's pulling, oh, we're starting to pull, yeah, there we go, there it is. There it is, so it's up around, I'd say 11, it starts to pull quite nicely. Those brakes are absolutely phenomenal though. We'll go in here. So yeah, you do have to get this engine screaming to get the most out of it. When you're up there, that's where the fun begins. Oh dear. Brakes are absolutely phenomenal. They're kind of like overkill in a way. Oh my god, yeah, they're really good. What's the rear brake like? Not too bad, you know, very as you'd expect. But yeah, one finger braking from the front, those are very bitey. Very powerful because, you know, twin monoblocks on a little 400 bike weighing not much more than a packet of Chewits. Handling is great, but I feel like those tyres are really kind of letting the team down a little bit. So yeah, brakes are absolutely phenomenal, engine is great fun, real screamy fun. Don't seem to get any vibes either. I would have expected this bike to be quite vibey, but it's very vibe free from my experience. You know, all bikes do generate some vibrations, but please be going left or right, don't be going straight. You're going straight, aren't you, you absolute Oh dear. Yeah, that is fun. Quick shifter is also very good, up and down. Oh, you got to watch out for the road because there's so much detritus, because it's autumn, or fall as you Yanks call it. So you got to be careful because there's just piles of tree bits. Oh, that's the only thing if you get the gearing wrong. It just bogs down a bit. 6-speed gearbox is very nice, very smooth. Slip and assist clutch, as I've already said. We've got the popo. Come on mate, speed up. I thought I'd come out early on a Sunday because it would be quieter. Yeah, so the tyres are not the best tyres in the world. Gearbox is lovely though. Lovely and smooth, even if you have to use the clutch. No issues, nice and smooth and soft. So I'm trying to think who this bike is aimed at. I guess it's aimed at kind of people old school people who remember the good old days of the ZX-4R. But also if you're interested in getting a sports bike that won't kill you in terms of seating position and comfort, and also won't terrify you at the blistering speed, this could be a good option. It fits the A2 category as well because it's under 95 horsepower. Brakes. Trying to think if there's anything else in terms of electronics that it's got. Doesn't have cruise control or anything like that, but that's okay. I have had a lot of fun on this bike. I said it Italian then. I've had a lot of fun on this bike. It's been a very enjoyable bike to ride. I'll swing it around here. It's actually got a half decent turning circle, you know. Right, we'll have a quick walk around of the bike. Kawasaki ZX-4RR. It looks fantastic in the sun. So it being a Kawasaki, you got to have it in green. If you buy a Kawasaki not in green, what are you doing with your life? Yeah, so Dunlop's Sport Max. As I said, they're okay, but I would probably change those for some stickier rubber. Got these very nice, racy, sporty looks. You got the ram air induction there. Give it a tickle. LED lights all around. There's your headlights. Typical sort of Kawasaki design, this little mandible bit here. Indicators built into the fairing. Let me just switch those on so I can show you. So, you know, that could get expensive if you have a bit of a faux pas. Seat is lovely. There's your pillion seat. I would not take a pillion on this, to be honest with you. Sounds great, but the sound all seems to be coming from here. Yeah. There's your Kawasaki monoblocks up front. There's your big piston jib jobs. Of course, there's the beating heart of the beast, that little 399cc inline 4. The pistons must be teeny tiny. Thromming away in there. There's your backlink shock. What's the rear like? Let's have a look. Yeah, not too bad. Ouch, my knee just went to click. 15 litre fuel tank, as I've already said. Good for over 200 miles, so really good fuel economy if you ride it fairly sensibly. If you're going to be up at the red line all the time, you'll probably see a massive drop from that. But I'm going to take some pictures of the bike, then we'll get going. There's the dash. I did wash it this morning, so there's the dash anyway. There is like a sporty dash, I think, but I've not really fiddled around with that because I just can't be bothered. But yes, it is rather nice. It's got everything there that you need. Little fuel gauge as well, trip meters, that kind of thing, temperature, time, all the bits you need. Right, yeah, I'm going to take some pictures, but join me in a second as we do like a final thoughts of what I think about the Kawasaki ZX-4RR. See you in a bit, bye-bye. Right, so let's throw our leg back over the ZX-4RR and I can finally answer whether I think this bike is any fun on the road. And it's, I thought it might be an easy answer actually, but it's a little bit more complex than you might think. Because yeah, it's fun, but the fun is, I don't know, the fun is so high up in the RPM that it's a little bit, you know, it is a niche bike, there's no getting away from that. But we'll just go over some pros and cons before I give you my final thoughts on the bike. So pros are, it looks absolutely fantastic, sounds incredible, that soundtrack is very addictive. The suspension is actually really compliant. It's really good for the real world. So I'd say, you know, a big plus is the suspension on this bike. While it is a sports bike, it's not all hard and juddery. It's not too focused. I think it actually makes a really good road bike. Very forgiving. Just plush damping, really. You know, you've only got preload at the front, but at the rear it's fully adjustable on that horizontally mounted shock. Brakes are fantastic. Decent electronics, really, for what the bike does. You don't really need any more than it's got. And it's super comfortable. That was a really big surprise. So those are all the pros, all the positives. Let's talk about some negatives. I'm going to start off with the price. Now, it's a bit tricky because it's a real unique proposition in the market. There isn't really anything else out there that's like this. You know, an inline 4 sports bike that's making 70 odd horses at such a low cubic capacity. It's very, very unique. And I think because of that they can kind of, oh Jesus Christ, they can kind of demand a little bit more money. That said, the build quality is really high. So, you know, I've had a look around the bike, there's nothing that really looks cheap and nasty, but it is nearly £9,000 for a 400, and that's, whichever way you swing it, that is quite a lot of money. Oh, see, if you get the gear wrong like that, you have to bang it down. if you had to live with this bike day to day, I think you might start to get a little bit annoyed with it. The fact that, you know, if you do get the wrong gear, you got to bang it down a few gears. But I guess also that is to kind of ignore what the bike is. Its whole sort of raison d'etre, so much crap on the ground, is that it's a peaky, fun, sporty, fun machine, rather than being a super practical machine. But it's a negative nonetheless, so that's why I mentioned it. The tyre choice, I think that's a bit of a strange decision from Kawasaki to stick Sport Max tyres on it, and maybe that kind of indicates that the bike isn't really a super sporty machine. It's more of a real world road going sports bike, and I guess that is true, but it would have been nice to get some better rubber on it. Again, Dunlops are fine, but you'd have to go for the European non-Japanese OEM Dunlops. Those are the good tyres from Dunlop. I know Dunlop get a lot of stick, but they do make some really good tyres, but you have to buy off the shelf in Europe. Other negatives, I think the fact that it's a little bit on its own out there could be seen as a negative as well, like as much as that's a positive because it's a bit different. It's got no competition really. I can't tell you anything else that this goes up against, which is I think competition is always a healthy thing. It also drives prices down. Yeah, you know, there are pros and cons to that being a unique bike. I can't really think of any other negatives right now. Carry on riding and see if my brain can remember anything. That never gets old, just how much you can rev the thing. It is quite ridiculous. Quite ridiculous. It's a real rider's motorcycle. And actually, one thing I would say about this bike is it's actually easier to speed than you think it might be, because you want to hold onto those gears and it will do 3 figures, no problems at all. But you kind of don't expect it to, because usually 400s are a little bit wheezy, certainly at the top end they don't make a lot of power. But this being the bike it is, that's where it's at. Am I making any sense? Probably not. I am having fun. So, yes, I've mentioned the fun word, and the whole premise of this video was, can you actually extract fun out of this bike? Now, it won't surprise anybody that I'm going to say yes you can. However, there are some caveats to that. It's because of the way the engine makes all its power at the top. You have to just ride the socks off the thing. Like, I'm in third gear there. Come on. You have to really use the gears and use that full rev range to get the most out of the machine, which I'm still not used to. I've had this bike a week so far. I've got it for another week, but yeah, I'm still not used to that. And I'll be honest, I would have liked a bit more mid-range, but I guess that's going against what the bike is meant to be, perhaps, because I guess if you've got more mid-range, then the bike might make more than 76 horses to get that mid-range. I think I would probably get a little bit frustrated with it. And that might sound unfair, but it's just how I feel. I would have liked a bit more power lower down. And I guess the other thing is you're going to have to ride this thing screaming everywhere, and you are going to annoy people. And also the police might think you're speeding all the time, so you could end up attracting unwanted attention. Yes, you can definitely have fun on the road. But it is a little bit unique, and it might actually get on your nerves after a while. God, those brakes are good. You know, there is a lot to like about the bike. Looks fantastic, sounds great, goes well. All that stuff, good chassis, good brake, suspension, comfortable. But it's just a little bit unique and quite niche. But yes, I think that will just about cover this video. This rambly, waffly video. Thank you so much for watching. If you do go out today, do ride safely, but remember to have fun, of course, otherwise what is the point? Until next time, you take care. Peace.